glad to see everybody here today. Let me just check something quickly. If you are new to me, please say hello. If you're new to Insight Timer, Nicole, which Nicole are you? I have an idea, but I don't want to just guess and make assumptions. But yeah, if anybody is new here, please introduce yourself. If you're new to Insight, if you're new to me, and we're going to be talking about something that can be really helpful this time of year and always. Talking about navigating holidays, sugar-free. Oh, you're new? Okay, great. Welcome from Kentucky, Nicole. So I am a spiritual life coach and Reiki Master Teacher, and part of the work that I do in my life coaching is helping people that identify as having a problem or issue with sugar or even an addiction, and helping you if you want to make changes in that area of your life. Okay, Nicole, yes, I remember. And yeah, I did post this event on my Facebook page, so there may be people here from Facebook that might not have ever been an Insight Timer, or vice versa, either way. So I have been sugar-free for over 4 years, and so the purpose of this live stream is to help you with information, if you would like, to make changes in your own life if you feel you might have an issue with sugar or carbs, because basically they're the same thing in the body. Alcohol could be included in that as well, and that's also, a different topic, but alcohol turns to sugar in the body. So you could group that in if you want. Hi, Duchess. Hold on, I'm going to change my microphone. Okay, that should be better on the mic. Thank you, Tam. So I'd like to get a feedback from you all here. If you care to share why you're here, what your journey is with sugar or any of those other substances. Are you sugar-free? Do you want to be? Are you here for somebody else that you might think has a sugar problem? Whatever you want to share wherever you're at, so I can then make sure to address whatever, issues or questions or things that you might have about this topic. So, hi, Monica, welcome. And don't forget, before we dive in, to follow me here on Insight Timer. If you care to give a donation, you can through this app. Check out my meditations here. I have many free ones and some in the premium side of the app. And I have many live streams scheduled for the rest of this month. Good to see you too, Monica. Melanie, sugar is your crack. Who else can relate besides me? And I get it, and it sucks. Hi, Bliss. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, so as I said, I mean, why I'm here personally and why this topic is something I have as a topic is because of my own journey and my own overcoming of sugar addiction. And I was definitely in a place of sugar being my crack, off and on, since I quit alcohol and drugs in 1999. So it was really once I quit smoking cigarettes in 2001. That's when the sugar took a forefront in my life and has been a struggle off and on ever since. This is the longest I have been sugar-free. That does not mean I have been carb-free, and that does not mean I have been flour-free, although Tam, yes, you are correct. In most circles, sugar and like flour go together, and I can explain more a bit about why. Yeah. So Nicole, from what I do recall, you have had a freedom from sugar in the past, if I remember correctly. And Melanie, it's about your drugs of choice as far as the sugar goes, and it not being sodas, not being alcohol, but being certain sugary foods. So and this is like, so I know we have many people here, right? And you might be in different parts of your journey, and you might identify differently. So some of you may not identify as having an addiction to sugar, but maybe like, it's a pain in the ass, or it's gotten out of control at times, but you don't feel like, maybe like Melanie said, it's my crack. Like, so I'll do my best to speak to anybody here who is, here for their own health journey, whatever that means. And also, for me, it was an addiction. It is an addiction. So that's where my experience lies. So that's where I'm going to share. And I'd also like to know if anybody here is like undecided, maybe. Maybe have you worried that you might have an issue? Maybe there's a question mark for you. So it would be helpful to like clear that up, right? Or you might be a person where I'm okay with this or not that, or I'm okay for like months at a time and then I go off on a bender. Like, there could be all different situations going on. Totally. So, and I also too want to address those of you who are here because it's holiday season. Coming into Halloween is when it starts. Like, for those of us that do identify as having an addiction or a serious problem with sugar, or whatever that means for you, it's like Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. Like, so it's really can be a couple months of challenges. And of course, there's always challenges. So, hi Joanne, welcome. So yeah, that's a great way to put it. And that can be a pattern too. And that can be a pattern for people with alcohol addiction or drug addiction as well, or any form of, if you want to call it that, like being okay for a while and then relapsing. So is there anybody here like trying to make it through the rest of the year sugar-free, or wants to make it through Because we can talk directly about that, of like navigating social events. And then we can also talk about identifying yourself as an addict, and then if you are, what that means, and then what you can do about it. So sounds like we've got, a number of people here that some of you identify as having a problem. Some of you are like, well, it's like a healthy choice. It's not so much coming from a place of, oh my God, I can't stop and it's horrible, but more of like, I want to make healthy choices for myself, and that includes cutting down or eliminating sugar. So if you are coming into, and I know it's already been happening and it will continue for the rest of the year, if you are in a place of, I want to make different choices during holiday events, and that I want these choices to exclude certain things. How do you do that? First is having an intention. Having a desire, well, before the intention is the desire. So first, there gets to be a desire to do it. So you get to discern that within yourself, and that's something that is internally within you. Do you really want to do this? Or is it just like a part of you is like, I know it's good for me, I know I should, but really inside you're like, I'm not ready, or I don't want to, right? So that's something that you get to discern within yourself. If you have a desire, how bad is that desire, or how much is that desire? Everything starts with that desire. If that is like, I don't care, I'm done, I'll do anything, no matter what, then everything else becomes easy, because you've already made that personal internal commitment and decision. But if you're like, well, but oh my God, but I just want to have the thing, the eggnog, the Christmas cake, the cranberry sauce, or the Christmas cookies, or like, if you're like that, it's going to be hard, and that's okay. So before we even get into like tactics, it's about really discerning where you're at with your desire to stop. And reading that some of you are living in situations with people who have issues, or where there's stuff in your house, right? That can be difficult to navigate for sure. So first there's the desire, and you can discern that within yourself. And then having an intention. So from the desire then becomes the intention. So those of you that have an event coming up and you're like, I want to make different choices. Or it might just be for the day. Somebody, Melanie, I think, mentioned that. Like, yeah, it'd be great to do it forever and just for the holidays as a start. For those of you in that place, like it could be like just for today. So then having the desire, the intention, and then the commitment. So that's really the mechanics of any type of change. And just because we have like a big why, like for some of you it might be health problems. You know, your internal desire has got to be bigger, like has got to be the driving force, because things like health problems or pressure from others or things like that, that's not really going to work. It can be motivation, but ultimately it's got to come from a choice within you. For me, I had hit a terrible bottom to where it was like my crack. Like crack cocaine, for those of you who don't know what I mean when I say crack. So if you're going into holiday situations, you're like, oh my God, there's this work party or whatever, or maybe it's even Christmas Eve. First, getting really clear on having your desire and your intention and your commitment that I am going to abstain from sugar during this event. And then thinking about why you want to do that and what the benefits will be. Hey, J.E. Thanks for sharing. April, not wanting to totally cut sugar out. Yeah, so I mean, as I said, we might have all different sorts of people here in different situations, that those that can moderate it and those that can't. And regardless, if you are a person that wants to make healthier choices just in the holidays and not partake of certain things, you can't go into a situation just, oh yeah, that sugar thing, and I hope that I don't eat it, but you don't give it much thought. Like, then you're not going to get the results you want if you don't give it the intention and energy. Okay, no worries, Monica. Thanks for popping in. And I will offer those of you that have never had a session with me, we can do a deep dive into this in your specific situation as a gift to you. So send a message if you want specific support, because we're in a live stream right now where there's many people and situations. So if you want specific guidance on your specific situation and you've never had a session with me, I'm happy to offer that as a gift to you. So send a message and reach out if that would be helpful. So going into the holiday parties or party with like, I am going to do this, is the first step to have that clear intention and desire and commitment. And then knowing, well, what does that look like? What does that mean? I will be able to eat and will not choose to eat. And then getting clear on that. So getting clarity is really important, regardless of where you place yourself in the realms of, do I have a problem or not? I don't have the experience to talk about moderating because I can't moderate. So for those of you that are looking to cut down or cut back, I don't have the experience to share with you about that, because I come from a lifetime of addiction. And addiction means I can't have just one of anything. So I just don't have the knowledge or the skill set or the experience to guide anybody in moderation. Aside from the standard stuff we've probably all heard of, okay, if you do go into the holiday situation, I am going to commit to eating 2 cookies and that's it. Like, aside from that, I wouldn't know how else to guide somebody. Hi, Jonay. Good to see you. Hi, Marielle. So my experience and my support that I can provide, and I can support people with anything, like if they know what they want, but yeah, I can't speak to guidelines on how to moderate other than, okay, you go into the holiday party making a commitment, I'm going to eat 2 cookies only, and that's it. So, bye, April. Thanks for joining momentarily. See you again soon. Yeah. So, and Jonay, I see your question. I will answer that. And first, we'll just continue in, this navigating the holidays part of what we're talking about here. So it's getting clear on your intention, getting clear on what you will and will not eat, and going into the situation with that clear already and top of mind. If it's important to you and if you really want to do this, you will make it a priority in yourself. And then you can even think about why. And you can extrapolate this and use it for your day-to-day for anything, right? Not just a party. But since we're in the holiday season, that's what we're talking about here. So, for me, I know what my drugs of choice are with sugar. And they are, the cookies, the cakes, the ice creams, all of that. So, for me, when I go into a holiday or a birthday or any sort of a social situation where the social situation will include many different offerings of food, and also there can be social pressure. How many of you have experienced that? That is a big part of what makes holidays and these sorts of gatherings difficult to navigate, no matter what time of year it is. It could be a birthday. There is definite social pressure. And it comes from, my interpretation of it is, it's really like tribal. It really goes back to our roots and our survival as human beings. We, in the past, survived in groups, in communities, in societies, in cultures, and families, and villages, and whatever, and nomadic tribes, and so wouldn't it make sense when people gather together and they eat together, if somebody is not wanting to eat or something like that, people are going to, let me give you some food. It was a survival thing, right? And it was also, and is, like a sharing thing and a pleasure thing and a giving thing and a part of the tribe thing. So this goes very deep. And so what I've noticed, and I know others have too, people, they don't even realize what they're doing. It's almost a subconscious thing, and it also comes from our own conditioning in this lifetime, not just like ancestrally, but growing up, we were, as kids, like given food, or especially as children, it's like eat everything on your plate, and then it really continues. Yes, food equals love, totally. Sugar pushers. So, I want to just bring a flashlight to that of there's a loving intention, and there's like almost a genetic or ancestral, generational programming as well. One example is I went over to my friend's house, and she's healthy, And she's aware and she's conscious. She's actually my Reiki master. And she's also like a chef, and she's a raw food chef even. And this was a few years ago. And I think she was going to like make lunch, and she was asking me what I could have. And then she got out this food that was healthy, and it was gluten-free and whatever, but it also was not on my eating plan. It wasn't sugar. And I was like, oh no, I'm sorry, I don't eat that. She started pushing me. She was like, oh, but it's healthy. Oh, but blah, blah, blah. Like trying to talk me into why it was okay. And what I noticed, and I was like, oh, I appreciate that, but no, I don't eat that. Like, it was almost like a disconnect of like subconsciously or unconsciously she did that. So I feel like something kicks in with people, and not to excuse any pushing, but just to say this, there's a lot here and it goes deep. So this is what going into situations, and especially even the bigger like Valentine's or Christmas, like when there's so much societal energy, like collective energy around these holidays, it makes it even bigger. Interesting. Yeah. Great example. So we don't want to get into like making others the problem, but just to have a noticing of like of the things that can be present in why people do that and in that they do. And then that's why we need to have a strong desire, intention, commitment going into these situations, and a knowing of what is okay and not, like, or what is on my plan and what is not on my plan to eat. So when somebody comes, oh, here, have this, and we say no thank you, you know, what can occur? So I got sober in AA, and alcohol is the same thing, right? Like, same thing. It's much more socially acceptable now to refuse alcohol than it has been in the past, so that's great. And also, there's still those people that will almost unconsciously try and push a drink on you. But I've been doing this for 26 years almost, of saying no to things in social situations. Yeah, I can imagine, Joan A. And even a vegan being sugar-free, that can mean, oh, but this is a special raw vegan treat, but it's got raw honey. Well, in my world, I can't have honey at all. I choose, that is sugar. So you can even get into these murky areas with people who are like well-meaning, and that maybe they might even make somebody something special, or maybe they'll make a diabetic. Well, it's sweet. It's sweetened with Splenda, so you can have it. You're a diabetic. So there's well-meaning people that, you know, don't understand our choices, and we don't need to convince them. But it's our, you know, we get to discern, and we don't have to over-explain. So when you're coming up against grandma, friend, oh yeah, and even the honey, like being a vegan and not eating honey because you're a vegan, not because of it even being sugar, right? That's even another one. That's a good point. And yes, Nicole, I do eat fruit. So, you know, the first, so let's say somebody comes to you at the party, oh, you've got to try this. The very, you know, first logical thing is no thank you, and that's it. no thanks. And that's all. Now, if that might be easy for some, that might be feeling like it's impossible. But that way it's simple. No explanations, no long-winded arguments or reasonings. Just no thanks. Oh, no thank you. I'm good, thanks. And also, many people coming from the places that I've been describing will, but you love this. This was your favorite thing last year. I made it specially for you. Oh, I appreciate that, but thank you, no, thank you. And this is where, if you're a codependent people pleaser, that can be a challenging thing. So, but yeah, starting with a simple no thank you. If you find that, if you think of that and you're like, oh my God, I couldn't just say no thank you, then you get to choose, some different reasons. And it can be okay. Like, I know I've worked with people, I'm thinking more about like people like recovering alcoholics. But I know that I've used this in the past when I was new in alcohol recovery, of like, if somebody offered me a drink of alcohol, oh no, it interferes with my medication. Something like that. And it's not necessarily true. And I don't really condone lying. So you get to feel into that, but I'll just say that's something that lots of people will do, is they will, because if you say or like, I have a medical condition, or it interferes with my medication. I mean, if somebody's a diabetic, I would say any sugar does interfere with your medication, or it is about having a medical condition. Oh yeah, that's great, Laser. Yeah, so validating, wow, that looks amazing, no thanks. In the minute, Tam, yeah, so what can happen if we open the door on what we are up to? We open the door on other people giving their opinions and or asking questions. What do you eat? And that can be uncomfortable and unwanted. So that's why starting with just no thanks, or I love that, Laser. Yeah, like, wow, that looks amazing. I'll pass. Yep. So basically, when you're new at this, like, I've been doing this so long, I don't need to say, oh, it interferes with a medication, or I don't need to give a reason or an excuse. I just say no thanks, or I'll say I'm sugar-free. Oh, wow. And you know what? How many times, and yes, Jonay, that's a great point. Be full before you go. Eat your meal before you go. You're not arriving there hungry. Or bring the food that you can eat. If it's a potluck, bring the thing that you are going to eat as the dish for the potluck. Then you know you have something that is safe for you to eat. But for me, because I'm comfortable in where I'm at, and I've been doing this a long time, I might say, oh, yeah, oh, no thanks, I'm sugar-free. 90% of the time, people are like, oh, I wish I could do that. Oh, God, I need to quit. Oh, my God, how do you, and that even opens up a conversation that might be interesting or helpful for them. But that's more like not beginner level. Yeah. And yeah, that's a great point, Melanie, about it can be the hardest with the people that are closest to us. I know I had a conversation with a client the other day, not about this dynamic, but just about sharing sharing personal ideas or things that were helpful for them with their immediate family and getting like pushback or getting a wall or getting a rejection. You know, the people that are closest to us can be the hardest ones. So just know that, and that's a different animal. So let me know if that's helpful about navigating the holiday events. And basically it's like whatever you need to do, like you can leave early. You know, I would say like disclose as little information as possible about your situation, because it's so common. If you disclose something, it opens the door, and then people give advice or ask questions, and then it becomes like this defensive thing, and then it's not a great dynamic. So just being like, no thanks. And that might feel impossible, and that's okay. But the next best thing is like giving a medical reason. Like, oh, my doctor, you know, it's against medical orders, or because that can shut people to like that. People will respect that. Yeah. And WW, for those who don't know, means Weight Watchers. And yeah, or even vegan, like whatever, or like Tam said, they're, you know, plant-based, gluten, caffeine, like whatever the thing is. So for those of you looking at your relationship with sugar in general and looking at what might you want to change. You know, Nicole asked the question, do you eat fruit? You know, there's all different levels, and there's all different forms of sugar these days. And if you feel you have an addiction to sugar, you're a full-on addict, and what that means is you can't have just one. There's a page in the book Alcoholics Anonymous on page 44 that really describes, like, if you don't know if you have a problem or an addiction, this can really help. And the quote is, I knew I was, okay. Let me get the book. It's right over here. I'd rather quote it correctly than get it wrong. Hey, Britt. My good old torn up book here. Okay, if, when you honestly want to, you find you cannot quit entirely, or if, when consuming sugar, you have little control over the amount you take, you're probably a sugar addict. So I'm going to repeat that. If, when you honestly want to, you find you cannot quit entirely, or if, once you start eating sugar, you have little control over the amount you take, you're probably a sugar addict. And you can substitute whatever your addiction of choice is there. So you want to look at, you find you cannot quit entirely over a long period of time. For me, I first identified that I had a problem with sugar in 2002. If I look at my life from 2000, over the past 22 years, I have not been able to quit entirely until the past 4 years. I had blips in times and, a month here, weeks here, days there. Once I went 6 months in that 22 years. Once I went 2.5 years in that time. And then now it's been over 4. But you want to look at your life over a long period of time. Can you stay stopped? It's not about stopping. Can you stay stopped? And if you can't, what is it that makes you go back after you've told yourself you're going to stop? This time, I'm done. And then your mind talks yourself back into it. That's the problem. Yeah. So it's about the staying stopped. And then what happens where you believe the lie that you can do it again and it'll be different this time. That's the problem. So I'm speaking to people who identify as what I just read. When you honestly want to, you can't quit entirely, or once you start, you don't have control over the amount you take. And that's consistently over a long period. So you might be able to prove to yourself, I can have 2 Christmas cookies. But then at New Year's, oh, well, that experiment went so well, I can have 2 more. And then in 2 weeks, oh, well, I had 2 twice. I can have 3 this time because I controlled it. And then in another few days or another few weeks or another few months, it's more and more till you're back to whatever your worst was and beyond. So for me, the time when I quit for 2.5 years, I remember, and I just told my client this the other day, I was sick and I was at my mom's visiting, and there was ice cream and I had the flu and my throat hurt. And I remember, I thought of that, but I'm sick and I'm not eating and I'm not hungry, and I could just have it this one time. I haven't had sugar in 2.5 years. I can have this ice cream because I'm sick this one time only, and that's it. And I'll go back to my sugar-free lifestyle. So I had that ice cream. And no, I didn't have something right away, but guess what? A month later, I was sugar-free for a month after that, but I remember vaguely, I have a memory of, I went a month, and then it's like, oh, but you had the ice cream that one time, so that means you can have it this one time. And I had something else. And then that justified, well, that experiment went so well that I can have this time. And then it might have taken 6 months, but eventually I was back to my pint a day habit, or whatever the incarnation of my addiction was at that time, which, has been, for me at my worst at that time, maybe in 2010, for me it was a pint a day of ice cream. And then it was cookies on top, and then I was really hypoglycemic and very overweight and very miserable. Yeah. Awesome. Day 2, Britt. Yeah. It's hard. And so if you are in a period like a day 2, there's going to be a physical withdrawal. And Britt, I know you know that. So I'm speaking to those who, can you relate to this? If you don't have an addiction, then you'll probably no, this isn't landing. And that's great. Good for you. So you're in the camp where maybe you can moderate and control it. So the first step is identifying, do you have an addiction? If you don't know, like maybe what I'm saying helps you to know. If you can't relate at all, then maybe you don't. If you can relate, then you probably do, but only you can discern that. Yeah, and you can substitute alcohol, drugs, cigarettes, gambling, sex, shopping, other foods. Now, when we get into things like, more behavioral addictions, it gets less clear because there's more subtle dynamics at play. But when we're talking about drinking alcohol, smoking a cigarette, eating a pint of ice cream, that's very clear. Yeah, you're welcome, Jonah. I'm happy this is helpful. Because it's about the mind. Yeah. And Britt, I think you joined in after I said this, but I said earlier, like, the thing is, and this is true for any addiction, the consequences, like, aren't necessarily enough. And that's the tragedy of it. And how many of you know people that are like, oh my God, why didn't they stop when XYZ occurred? Even if we look at food addiction and sugar, like the obese diabetics that die from complications from diabetes because they still ate badly even while they're taking insulin, even while they're obese, right? Like, it's hard. So we've got to recognize that knowing the consequences, it's helpful, but it's not going to be enough to, like, the consequences have to be enough, and they might not be. Being pre-diabetic might not be enough. It might be. So that's kind of the mystery of what has people change. What's enough? What's enough for one person might not be for another. And Melanie, so this is where we get into, like, I don't know if that's a subtlety, but so I love bright line eating. I don't follow it 100%, but I love the science of it, and I love that program and definitely recommend it to clients. And she has done research, the author of that book, that artificial sweeteners do the same thing, and I think other people have too. They do the same thing in the brain as regular sugar. So for me, no sugar, no artificial sweeteners. Even in Bright Line, they say no stevia. Even that does, like, it binds and it does the same things in the brain. You get to discern for yourself. For me, I don't need to sweeten anything. I just don't sweeten things. So if you are identifying, with what I'm saying, and you want to give it up, maybe, and it might be today, or it might be tomorrow, or next year, or whenever, the first thing you want to do is discern, what are your drug foods? What are your drugs of choice? If you are identifying as having an addiction, and what that would mean is you can't have one bite, one day at a time, ever. Which is, overwhelming to think about, and that's why one day at a time, and 1 minute at a time, and 1 hour at a time. But I invite you to write a list of those foods that you can't have. And I would invite you, if you're putting sugary foods on that list, that just because you didn't have a problem with candy, but you had a problem with ice cream, that doesn't mean that you only quit ice cream and then you can still have candy. No, sorry. I will put my foot down there. Because what will happen, you quit your drug of choice, and then all of a sudden you're over here pigging out on the other thing, justifying it. So you get to let go of all sugary treats and snacks and desserts and things. So write a list of those things. Those are things you know you have relapsed into addiction if you have those. Now we get into carbs, and this also is, you know, a place where sugar addiction can hide and does hide, because the refined carbs turn into sugar in the body, so it's the same thing. Although it's different here in the taste, it acts the same in the body. So things like pasta, bread, yes, anything, you know, chips, fries. So it's about the refining of it. So you get to be honest with yourself, and yeah, the carbs can lead back to the sugar. Yep. And that is where I have struggled, and I have not been for years carb free. And it doesn't mean all carbs, but the carbs that you know are a problem, those carbs. Yeah. So it's time to wrap up. So don't forget to follow me here on Insight Timer. Give a donation if this is helpful for you. Follow me. This live will be on my YouTube channel, so follow me there. Facebook, Instagram, check my website. Again, if you haven't had a convo with me and you want to get guidance on your specific situation in regards to this, send me a message. We can set up a gifted conversation for you. And I'm happy to offer that. I'm also offering a life visioning workshop, again, for those who are new to me. And it's perfect for end of the year to look at where you are now, where you want to go. Thank you, Britt. Well, and also, you know, I haven't been perfect with the carbs, and that's where I get to do my own and continue my own journey. And yeah, I've learned a lot. I've learned things from that. But thank you. And I can put my stake in the ground. I haven't had any desserty thing in over 4 years, and that's a huge accomplishment. And there's still more to go. Thank you, Jonas. Great to see you and everybody that joined in. Yeah, Melanie, feel free to reach out, and anyone else. Awesome. Britt, congrats on 6 months sober, and I know I'll see you soon. You're welcome, Tam. My pleasure. So yes, if you follow me here, you can be notified of my upcoming live streams. I think I'm doing Conversations with God soon. I'm so excited. And my weekend live stream, and I have an upcoming holiday live, so check those out. Thank you, Britt. Much love. Thank you, Melanie, and everyone for joining. Thank you. I'm very grateful. I'm grateful that I am sugar-free. I'm so grateful, and there's always more to evolve and grow into in all areas of our lives. So